Having trouble connecting. Oh,
For me?
now it says we're live. I think we're live. I think people are watching. Look who I got. Holy shit.
Hey.
Big name. Big
name.
Big people.
Biggest name.
What?
Biggest name. Big name.
Literally a big name.
Quite literally one of the biggest names I think you've probably ever had. So.
Yeah, for sure. It's how many syllables?
9 Francesca Fiorentini. No, 7. I used to know it when I was like little, and that's all you do. But yeah, 7.
We're very excited to have you here on the show. I've been a big fan of yours, especially over the past, I don't know, year or two. I started watching you with our friend Waj, and then on the Majority Report, and then started watching your stuff. And I've become a huge fan. I watch your YouTube videos where she has a huge following. If you're not already following Francesca on YouTube and watching the Bitchuation Room, the show is so good. She's really smart, really funny, and I'm very happy to have you here to get to know you a little bit and then to ask you your opinion and thoughts on everything. So thank you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Pete was on the Bitchuation Room this week, and we talked about Kash Patel wearing a medium-sized jacket, and Pete, divulged that he happily wears a women's jacket because it comes in cuter colors. And I feel like, now I know you well, and now we're best friends.
Yeah,
so
getting there. I mean, I also have the body of a strong woman.
Yes.
Like
and you I'd like to think I'm strong. I'm so not strong. I have to get fit for the revolution, man. But at least we can all outrun ICE agents. That's clear. Like, no one should fear that. But I mean, like, tanks and shit that they're gonna throw at us.
Well, that's a good way to start in with what I wanted to do, which is I wanted to do a few questions about you and your life. And so I decided I'd go to your Wikipedia. And, I had already decided that according to your face, I could not figure out what you were, which is the most insulting and demeaning way to talk about someone's potential ethnicity, but I'm going with it. So I looked up on Wikipedia.
Oh yeah, what does Wikipedia say?
It says that you are second generation Italian and Chinese. Like your mom and dad moved from China and America. Where did your mom and dad? Is that right?
Yes. They finally got it right. They used to say I was Argentine because I speak Spanish and I lived in Argentina for many years. But my dad is Italian from Tuscany. My mom is Chinese, originally from Shanghai, but has lived in this country since she was 10. So, yeah.
So given that, and your appearance and your joke about outrunning ICE, like, it's somewhat, the whiter you are, the safer you are.
Sure.
And you're off-white. Are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty pale these days.
Have you dealt with like bigotry and racism in your life at all because of that? And do you feel in any way any less safe now given the regime of stormtroopers in your state?
I mean, it's a good question. Look, can be pretty white passing and kind of in the eye of the beholder. It just depends. Some people are like, nah, not at all. And some people are like, yeah. But thankfully, I have not been in those crosshairs. However, my mom has definitely been stopped at the airport for trafficking fresh fruit because, they know they're Asians. And she was trafficking fresh fruit, but she ate it on the plane. Okay, motherfuckers. She's not stupid. It's not her first rodeo. She's gonna travel internationally. Of course, she's got fruit, but she's gonna eat it on the plane.
What is with Asians and fresh fruit?
Why do these Asians love it's because Costco has good deals and we know where to get them. It's fun to have white nationalists. I mean, it's fun. That's a sentence I don't think anyone's ever said, but the best part online when nobody knows what you are is they don't know how to insult you. Like they're trying to figure out what ethnicity and what slur to throw at you. And because my name is so Italian, like my name, Francesca Fiorentini, it does kind of sound like a slur. Like it sounds like a made up Italian name. Like it sounds like when MAGA decides Italians are not white anymore, like they're going to be like, you're just a little Francesca Fiorentini. It's like, so many vowels. But yeah, man, it is rough out here, and I am not thankfully in the crosshairs of it. However, so many communities and our neighbors and our friends are.
What part of California do you live in?
I'm in Los Angeles. So,
Um,
it's been really chill here. We just had like a fire burn down two massive neighborhoods and then ice.
yeah, it's been a really rough go for that beautiful state. We can talk only about California if we wanted to, but back to you and your life. You grew up there in California, public school girl.
Yes. Public school girl. I don't know, that's the song, but it should be. Yeah, public school.
Did you think you growing up were better or worse than the rest of us being a Californian?
Ooh, I didn't have like a California supremacy growing up. I think maybe I'm more of a California supremacist now than I was then. But I definitely felt when I was younger that, growing up in Northern California, I was like, oh, the whole country's kind of liberal, right? Like I very much had a skewed idea of progress and everyone being like, hey, we all grew up like singing songs like the earth is our mother, and we're like, honoring our native ancestors, right? Like, right? So yeah, there was, a little bit of a rude awakening going to college on the East Coast and being like, ooh, people are really tied to their whiteness.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I bet you grew up in Northern California. What about your childhood, adolescence, life, family, if anything, brought you to the world of politics and everything and comedy? Really, I mean, you're a comedian and you have a very similar kind of background as me, and I love getting to the root of how you got to kind of both those places. Was it your upbringing? Was it an experience? What was it?
I was kind of always the class clown, middle school, high school. I got those superlatives, I was a theater kid. I did improv, all that. And then I'm just sort of like a generally an angry, like righteous person. I think that I've always had that streak. And when I was 17 is when Bush was, won the presidency slash stole it. And I remember my senior year, I couldn't vote in high school, but I like wore a little pin that said ambushed. And I thought I was so clever and blah, And then in 2001, I want to say it was 20, whatever, but 2001, I went to school at NYU in New York. And in September in 2001, I'm not sure if you remember, but there was these like big buildings and, they like someone flew up, there was a plane, and anyway they fell down and it
You're
just.
allowed you're allowed to make the jokes because you were there, but I was there too. And I can't believe that you moved from California to New York, I guess probably late August to start college at NYU. NYU, amazing school. Just to get in is really hard. There you are at this amazing school. And then your city and frankly, that neighborhood I mean, God damn, that must have been, what's the phrase? Rude awakening,
Yep.
shock,
Yep. Yep.
loss of innocence. There
Yep.
goes my New York
Not
dream.
only that, Pete, I mean, to date myself obviously, but like I turned 18 on September 10th. My birthday is September 10th. So
Ooh,
like the day, like the good morning. What?
have you thought about changing it ever since?
Well, now Charlie Kirk died on September 10th, so I'm kind of like sick about, like, I love it. No, just kidding. No, so it was such a rude awakening. It absolutely changed and radicalized me because not obviously the terror attacks, which were terrifying, but also the response and the fact that here we were broken and trying to understand what happened and really trying to like not do any more harm, at least in my opinion. And we were marching off to war. I mean, almost immediately. And that felt totally wrong to me. That felt like a dishonor. In fact, the 9/11 families still to this day call it a dishonor to the legacy and the memory of their family members to have marched into war. So that's when I joined the anti-war movement. It kind of became more political, and then only later on, years at like maybe 5 years, 6 years after, was I able to finally make like go back to comedy, start stand up. I actually started stand up when I lived abroad in Argentina. And just kind of be like, here I have very disparate parts of my life. Like I'm super into politics. I'm an activist. I was working in alternative media, around 2004. And also, I think all of us, we can't do good in this world unless we are like um, really actually tapping into what we're good at. And if you're good at entertaining or telling jokes or being kind of, a dumbass or whatever it is, like I think the world's going to be better when you like actually use your gifts to make the world better. So that's what I finally realized. I was like, look, I can't just be a hardened activist. I can't just be a militant. I'm actually really bad at doing meetings. I'm super impatient. So let's get back to some of this comedy. Let's get back and like let's find a way to go forward with that. And so that's how I was able to, I got this job at Al Jazeera. They launched AJ Plus in 2013, and I helped them do that as like a host and and a like a journalist, but also I was able to be a correspondent and and blah blah blah. I said that.
Why did you go to Argentina and live there for how long?
I fell in love with an Argentine man, and I was like, let's go, let's leave. So
He was in America. You met him here, or
I met him in New York, and I moved to Argentina to be with him. And also, Barack Obama was coming to power, and I was just like, you know what? Not on my watch. Not on my watch. First black boy. Kidding me.
How long? Not on my watch. And so you lived there how long?
I lived in Argentina for 5 years.
Holy shit.
I did stand up there. I did a weekly show called for like in English, it was like an English language stand up show called Gringo. So it was super cute, and it was a great like, super low stakes place to cut your teeth when you're just starting out,
Yeah.
obviously doing stand up. And then AJ Plus was based in San Francisco, and so moved that back there and started doing stand up also in SF.
That's how it was for me starting comedy in Syracuse. Really low stakes. So just quickly on Argentina, I mean, like you must have a lot of thoughts and opinions about obviously the country, but South America culture and everything that is kind of happening right now, because we're starting a war in a new hemisphere, which we haven't really gone. We've always been involved in Central and South America, obviously, but more in secret wars. And now the Seventh Fleet is off the coast of Venezuela, but I'll get into that, I guess, with you. But I guess my question about Argentina was like, what would you say about their culture, your experience living there?
I really enjoyed living in Buenos Aires and traveling around Argentina. I have a huge passion for Latin American politics. And I feel like Latin America in many different countries is both living in the future and the past. When it comes to like progress, they've had leaders who have really taken their countries, I think, a lot farther when it comes to getting out of like this neoliberal, hyper capitalist thinking. Living abroad also, and I think if you guys have lived abroad, living outside of the States, people are way less focused on money and way less focused on status and career. Here, the first thing out of your mouth when you meet someone is like, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? In a lot of countries, that's sort of an absurd question to ask someone, because it's like, how do you make money? It's like, I'm human. I'm here. I think a lot of other countries, Argentina included, are a lot more, they're less planned. It's less like, we're going to hang out for 15 minutes on December 29th, like it's just a little bit easier and chiller. And so
Yeah.
I have a lot to say about my time there. I know Argentines get a really bad rap for being like kind of stuck up, and they super are. But Argentina is a huge country. 65% of the people there have indigenous backgrounds. It is incredibly rich with labor history and working class history and struggle. So yeah, it was fantastic living there. And I was ready to move back though. I hadn't reached a point where I was like, it's time to move back to the States.
Really, I maybe we should or you should just do an episode about the whole money, status, career thing. I hear that a lot. I've only lived in America. I've traveled a bit, so I know kind of what you're talking about. But I think that's such an interesting thing. And now a lot of people are moving out of the country. My daughters are probably going to go live in Italy. They're Italian citizens, with my ex-wife, and who's also a citizen. So it's like
They're gonna go to Italy.
they're all talking about
Ooh,
moving there in a year.
sorry.
In September of next year, they definitely are. And so I'm really excited for them to kind of get a taste of that, specifically because of what you just said there about the money, status, career thing. I think that's fascinating. And I want to talk about it further, but just Argentina, I think I can name two: Pope Francis and Lionel Messi, right?
That's right. You got it.
Are there others that are well known? Is that it?
I mean, you've got, Ava Perón,
Oh,
and
right.
those are the classics. Sort of. Oh, you got all the Nazis that are hidden there. A lot of Nazis
Oh, right.
and former SS who are hidden there. But yeah, no, Messi and Bergoglio, as he used to be named, are pretty big up there.
Okay, so I just a little bit about your career in media too. You've worked, as you mentioned just now, at Al Jazeera. You were then at the Young Turks as a contributor for several years, almost like 10 years there. And you left there and started your own thing. Do I have that? Were those the main three places that you've kind of been?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of like freelance work with National Geographic as a correspondent, with MSNBC. I had a special in 2019 that was like supposed to be a pilot. It was a pilot, but didn't go nowhere, of course, like all pilots. And then I was a contributor to TYT over the years. But I started my podcast, The Habituation Room, in 2020, just to call my own audience and community and people who also are like into this intersection between politics and comedy. I think, something I learned from being in the activist world for a long time was that we are so self-serious. I mean, for good reason. We're fighting, fascist authoritarians, repression, but so much of what we need to be doing to make our movements more attractive and exciting to be involved in is to be a little bit less serious about everything, have fun, take ourselves less seriously, make fun of each other. I'm a big proponent of that because I think, we are in a time where, it's like there's two sides, and one side are like total pieces of shit and they relish in being pieces of shit. And the other side's like, we're perfect. We do the things perfectly. And it's like, neither of these sides are living in reality. Let's just actually be human. So, yeah, that's I forgot what the question was, but yeah, that was sort of my media career.
It was super salad, ma'am.
Thank you.
That was the question. Super salad.
Oh, super salad.
And then you told me about your career.
Oh, I thought you meant super salad. Oh, soup or salad? I'm gonna go soup, dude. Salad's boring.
What's your soup?
Oh, I mean, you gonna go real Italian with it? We could do a minestrone, pasta
Oh, all right.
fagioli. I've got some recipes from my nonna, but I'll take a tomato bisque. I'll take a fucking,
Sophisticated.
I'll take a butternut squash.
Ooh. So having, the experiences you've had in media, particularly, I guess, more progressive media, although I don't know what you would even qualify Al Jazeera. It's an international news
International, yeah. But very much allowing us to, because it was international, really talk about issues from kind of the perspective of the most oppressed, the people in the global south, people of color, and being able to center those stories is honestly, I loved Al Jazeera from before when I didn't work for them. Maybe more so before. And they continue to do great work, because they have journalists and perspectives of people who are actually in the places they're reporting from and aren't just reporting them from like, these ivory towers.
So we're now in a place, and I wanted to get your take on this because you've had so much experience. And we're now in a place of media that's really hard to kind of define. You're out on your own. I'm out on my own. I worked for freaking everybody, all the major kind of media companies, and now doing my own thing. And there's pros and cons, and I don't want to bore people about like the day to day or the business end of it or anything like that. I just want to like ask you about how what you're doing. You have a really big following on YouTube and other platforms as well. Everybody, like pretty much that's anybody in progressive media knows of you and your work, probably has some opinion or not of you. But what are you trying to do with your channels, with your show? What do you think people are hearing and seeing? It was really interesting to kind of, I read some of the comments when I was on your show the other day from some of your, followers, fans, supporters, people who pay for your stuff. How do you define what you're trying to do?
Well, I think it's a really interesting question because, my goal isn't to be only people funded. My goal is to get a billionaire piece of shit to give me tons of money. No, no, but I've always wanted to, basically, be in so-called mainstream media, right? But not compromise on my values, my perspective, my humor. And I've always wanted, I had a special on MSNBC that I like got a sex joke in. The very first like line out of my mouth was some like a sort of like a vague sex joke. It was kind of like edgy, and so my whole thing, I've pitched a lot of shows, usually they're all unscripted. I have wanted to marry, comedy and politics in a very like in your face, edgy way, creatively on a bigger platform. For many, many reasons, Hollywood is collapsing and has been. I am not a famous person yet. Um, it feels like the industry has changed and it is much harder to pitch or sell shows like that. And so in the meantime, I basically was like, let me cull my own audience, let me cultivate this audience that I know is there and not wait on somebody else. And I think you as a stand-up can understand this. It's like stand-up is so much about, I just want to entertain. I want to do the thing and I want to do it now. I don't want to wait for someone to give me a green light to do something that I know is funny or I know is going to work or whatever. So it is very in the moment. It's not my preference. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't think it's good to have all of these excellent journalists or funny people or amazing correspondents and hosts, people like Joyanne Reed or even, or Wajahat Ali, or I mean, even Mehdi Hassan. Like, I don't think it's a good thing for all of them to be on separate Substack channels or YouTube channels. Like, I don't think this is a healthy thing for our media ecosystem. It's not, I don't think it's good for the economy. I don't think it's good for a lot of things, but it is good in terms of getting an independent voice. It is good in terms of cutting out the bullshit, not having, again, corporate backed media, not being censored. I mean, it's good for a lot of those things, but I don't feel like it's a model for sustainable information in whatever fucking century we're in.
That's a really interesting point of view, and I want to talk more about it. But it is the situation right now, and it's the situation you're in, I'm in, that we're all in. How do you know who to trust and depend on? Who are some of the sources that you like in shows that you watch, or in individuals, or even media outlets? I mean, obviously, no one should be given full credibility. Everybody is flawed. Everybody makes mistakes. I certainly value more people who admit them and retract and all of it. But what are your thoughts? Who do you respect or rely on or afford your own credibility and talk about?
I mean, I have people from my life, like, old political mentors who I will like lean on,
Mm.
authors and, folks who've been in like the 60s and 70s struggles. So some of those mentors I have, which I think is important. I also think people should read books. And I myself finally read The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander 15 years later. A lot of things, of course, we think we know about the criminal justice system. I was just like, had to refresh, and it's so good. Everyone should read it. But in terms of like commentators, I really do think, look, Democracy Now! Has been a stalwart, and save a couple of issues, I think they've been excellent. I think that, I think I encourage everyone to basically have um, a sort of news collator. Like you should be constantly like putting a bunch of RSS feeds together in a Feedly or in a Google News or whatever you use so you can see multiple sources. But yes, I do like Democracy Now! I enjoy, and I think that Sam Seder and Emma Vigeland have excellent political sensibilities. And I think they're right on the money, and I think they have great guests on. I think that
by the way, I think Emma's great. I think Sam, not a good guy.
no, I mean he is a total snake, and I've seen him eat like a rat whole. You just gull it, sit down.
I saw
But
him steal tires off of a poor person's car,
oh yeah,
which I thought, like, I don't have any problem with stealing from a Mercedes, but I thought it was really weird that he went and stole from like a 2009 Corolla in front of people. He did it. Just not a good person, Sam Seder. I'm glad we got that on the record, and I'll make sure he hears about it from both of us. I think those are great. It's a great explanation that you give in terms of who's got credibility with you in your world and why. I want to just ask you though about I want to talk about politics and kind of the framing of things and where you feel like we are right now in whatever century we're in this fucking weird simulation timeline that has us connected right now, which is cool.
Sorry,
and there's more of your house. Holy shit, you're so wealthy.
Look at all this money, dude. You should. Dude, my landlord's texting me right as we're on this too. I just the friggin' light is so bad. I'm sorry. My studio is being occupied.
I just think it's impressive that you have those arched entrances.
I had to pay extra for this.
Did you get that done? Did you have someone do those arches?
No, I'm a renter.
Oh, okay, all right. So when I don't want to talk about as much. I mean, we can. I certainly want to hear, and you always weigh in on obviously what's happening in the world of fascism and Trump and the right. But just in terms of where we are on the left and what terms and how you identify, I think that so much is changing so rapidly right now. And I want to know how you think about kind of, I don't like to use the word Overton window because I feel like people don't know what it means, but how do you describe like your politics? Where do you use labels to describe your ideology at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting question. I think at my heart, I am a radical. Like I believe in systemic change, and I don't think people should shy away from the term radical. I think we do need a political revolution. I think we need a revolution of values, all the things that both Bernie and MLK Jr. have said. I think we need, I deeply believe in the word revolution. I just deeply believe in that. I think, and I believe in the concept of it, and I think we need it. In other moments, I could call myself a democratic socialist. I think, I think it's important, given how much fascism has laid waste to the government. It is important in our lifetimes to reaffirm why government matters, what it can do for people, and expand it and make sure it is not undercut, it is not overcharged. I mean, it truly if you want to not get ripped off as the government, be able to negotiate drug prices, what Biden tried to do, and Trump is overturned. But we are far past the moment. Look, Biden wasn't the guy for 2020. He wasn't the guy for 2016. He's probably wasn't even the guy for 2000. He wasn't the guy for 2008. There was a fucking reason Barack Obama won. So we have been sitting on this gaping wound of economic justice and real political revolution in this country, whether it's reforming the Supreme Court, whether it's reforming the Senate, whether it's reforming, the Electoral College, in addition to protecting people, supporting people, getting a new deal, a Green New Deal, in addition. So yeah, man, that's where I associate myself, but I'm not like I don't really cling to the like, I'm a socialist. Like when I was younger, I was like, I'm an anarchist. You know what I mean? I don't fuck the state, abolish all borders. Was kind of, and I still believe that, but I don't think I'm gonna get to see that in my lifetime.
You think you're going to get
Um,
to see the revolution that you just described? One could argue, I suppose, as you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, because I think I identify in very similar way that you describe yourself, and I think I had a kind of maturing process in my ideology as well in terms of just being more pragmatic about what's possible. But I think you could make an argument that there was a revolution, and that's how we got to Trump in a way. And that do you think that that's I said I wasn't going to talk about the right, but it does seem like the fact that he was the president once and then again is a revolution of sorts. And one might describe it's the culmination of what the right has, sowed for years, which is an anti-government ideology. And you talked about, being on the left, and we believe in the power of importance of government, but they have just chipped away at it and now destroyed it and cut it and drowned it in the bathtub. It's Grover Norquist's dream come true. It's headed by an absolute crazy authoritarian, the likes, I argue, the world has never seen.
yeah,
Never seen a guy like Donald Trump.
no. And again, like as you go back though, if we live in this moment of like the memento last scene of the movie where we're putting all the pieces together, um, you realize that Democrats have been walking hand in hand with Republicans to deliver us this moment of fascism. You realize that Bill Clinton and his neoliberal policies, his tough on crime policies, have given us the modern day war on crime, this souped up moment that we're in where all undocumented immigrants are criminals, all Black people are criminals. Like it's just the Democrats have paved the way to get Donald Trump. And the reality is that people don't have a positive vision of government. They don't even have a positive vision of government now because they don't haven't seen that government actually does anything for them. And yes, it might prevent them from dying of hunger with SNAP benefits that are like $30 a month, right? Or less. Uh, but that's not the same as like universal health care, a jobs guarantee, some kind of, consumer safety, whatever it might be, protections. Like that's not the same thing. And it's certainly doesn't, when it does happen, doesn't come along with a bold vision or plan like Trump's bold vision and plan. And Democrats have yet to actually go with any kind of vision. It's always been, we can do this. We can still serve our corporate masters. And it's like, no, man, no, absolutely not. The line in the sand has been drawn. You see this with all these ostensible liberal billionaires like Zuckerberg, and Tim Apple, and them all coming over to the fascist side because ultimately that's where their bread is buttered. So I think I think you're right that Donald Trump represented a revolution, but if you really put the pieces together, he represents more of the natural conclusion of where I think neoliberal economic policies and I think a sort of rotting democracy, a democracy that was stagnant, atrophied, not expanding, not growing. Where rights were being taken away from people, especially black and brown people, especially undocumented people, especially immigrants, especially women, or they certainly weren't being expanded. This is all the fucking natural conclusion of that.
Who do you like? Who are your guys and the gals electeds? Do you like the AOC? Do you like what's your
Do
opinion
like a
on
little
Jackson?
yeah, I'm a socialist sommelier. I I really like Zoran and I really like AOC and Bernie. Obviously, I think Bernie has he's done a lot and we are on the wrong timeline. He should have been president now. He should have been finishing up 8 years right around now, right? Um, and but I think he's he's done enough. It's been good. AOC, I do really like. I think that she has not stuck her neck out in a way that I feel like we wanted to see. Um, and I think, Zoran has yet to come into power, but I think Zoran has really shown that you can in the year 2025, when everyone's like, no, you got to pivot to the center, pivot to the center, that you can actually still be bold, have bold ideas, talk about an agenda of economic justice, and still win. And, beyond that, you see people like Mayor Brandon Johnson, who comes from, a teachers union, head of the teachers union in Chicago.
Yeah.
And he is out here absolutely crushing it. He is out here implementing some of the policies, like moving money from a bloated police department into public safety teams. And you've got older people in Chicago who are also progressive and have that same idea to really, center public safety. And I feel like we need to defend people like Brandon Johnson too, who are in the thick of it, who are dealing with a lot of this shit. And I think I guess that's another person I just want to lift up, in addition to, yes,
Well,
the Zorons.
it sounds like, what do you mean when you say like an AOC, you would like to see her stick her head out a little bit more? What do you mean by that?
I mean, I think it's important to not play it safe. I think it's important to, yes, she says things like, look, good on her for not going to Trump's inauguration. Oh my God, I can't believe Democrats actually did that. And she's like, I don't attend inaugurations of rapists. So thank you. That was brilliant. But I think on policy, I think especially around Palestine, I feel like she could have been leading the knife's edge around those issues, specifically around Gaza, and hasn't necessarily. And I think she also didn't want to be fighting constantly with like Hakeem Jeffries and fucking Nancy Pelosi. And you can't just be in Congress and always be fighting your colleagues, because you need them to win and get legislation passed. But I think ever since 2024, it's like, no, man, there's nobody at the helm. They're not passing anything. There's no reason to be nice to Chuck Schumer. There's no reason to be nice to Hakeem Jeffries by saying you don't think it's the time to primary him. Nah, man.
Ah.
God bless. God bless. Anyone who wants to primary Hakeem Jeffries, go ahead. Like, she owes Jeffries nothing. Hakeem Jeffries called her an influencer, like a fucking, was like, oh, do we want to be famous on Instagram or do we want to govern? Like, and so these are the things that you're like, centrists have no love for you. I don't know why and they're actively destroying our chances of survival, in my opinion. So I'm not sure why we are tiptoeing around their feelings.
Really interesting to hear your perspective on all of that. One of the things I really wanted to hear you talk more specifically about, for sure. What about Gavin Newsom? He's your governor there. He's going to be he's the front runner. He's the front runner. I say.
Gross. You say. Who says?
I'm saying it right now that he is the front runner for 28.
Gross.
He's perfect. He's fucking gorgeous. He's smart. He's funny. He's charismatic. He ran the state. He's a fighter. People love some Gavin. Some of my friends who I like and trust say they think that he has dark energy. Now, I don't know what they mean.
Dark energy. I mean, yes, but like, tell me more.
I don't know what it means. But I'm on your perspective. You live there and you are, as you described yourself previously. So what about that guy?
That guy could win an election, and that guy, if he won an election, would walk us right back into a Tucker Carlson, a Marco Rubio, a God forbid Nick Fuentes presidency in the future. This is Gavin Newsom will be another Biden who will not actually, first of all, believes in nothing, is absolutely a corporate Democrat, is out of touch with the base of the American people who are sick of, again, corporate-backed politicians and actually want people to stand for something. Gavin Newsom doesn't know what he stands for. He says what he needs to say to get elected, like he did here in California when it came to universal health care in the state, was not able to pass a universal health care plan. In fact, I think actively tanked we have a Democratic supermajority, so there's no reason we shouldn't pass a single payer program here in the state of California, but we haven't. And that's because it's Gavin Newsom, and it's, both, big pharma, but the private insurance industries, on and on and on. So do I think Gavin Newsom could win? Sure. But do I think that in 4 years, we will go back to a worst white nationalist with Gavin Newsom's lack of vision and programs? Absolutely.
How do you talk about what you've seen change, if you've seen anything change, vis-a-vis Democrats' support for Israel? In the last, well, since the October 7th attacks, I think you've seen massive change in public opinion on Israel because of their actions, because of genocide, because they destroyed the entirety of the Gaza Strip. It seemed I haven't seen all of it, but I mean, it has changed a lot, and it has given. I've seen so many elected Democrats, much less commentators, be much more critical of Israel over as a result of it. And I wonder what you think has changed with the Democratic Party, and whether or not the Israeli lobby, specifically AIPAC, has less of a hold on Democratic electeds in terms of funding campaigns. What do you think has changed? How much has it changed? How do you describe that change?
I mean, I think it's been massive, and it's been led by the people. It's been led by, folks in the streets. It's led by the students. It's been led by the people who the Democratic Party have vilified and demonized as being anti-Semitic, even though all they wanted to do was stop the killing, and even though it was led by Jewish Americans. And I think that, we're not even talking Israel and Gaza and Palestine right now. This is not a partisan issue. Like, literally, Pete, you got, when you've got oh my God, what's his face? When you got like these dumbass comics, Theo Vaughn being like, I just think it's bad, man. This is like bad. Like, this is risen above party. It is.
I haven't watched enough of him, and I really haven't followed closely. I know of him, and I just saw the top 10 podcasts for the year or something like that. And he's like he's in top 5. And I know Rogan's appeal. I know Joe. I was on his show. I know him well. I get his appeal. I understand it. I don't get that Theo Vaughn guy. What do you know? What he's
I
what
don't.
is he doing?
He also comes from a unscripted show. I think he was on The Real World way back when.
Oh, right. Yeah, right.
Or one of those. I forgot whether it was Real World or it was a different one. I know obviously Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation, was on The Real World. But my point about Gaza is that it's like
Yeah, get back to that.
60 or 70%, I can't remember, of the general public, not Republicans, not Democrats, 60, 70% of Americans don't believe we should be sending more weapons to Israel. Okay. Just case in point. So if that's where the majority of Americans are, not just the knife's edge, not the leading Democrats, which, I think that we need to be far more out front when it comes to really standing with the people of Palestine when it comes to, Democratic politicians and talking about possibly one state solution. What would that look like? Let's have a democratic Israel, blah, blah, blah. That's over here. But just the barrier to entry, in my opinion, for any Democratic politician or really any politician is no more weapons to Israel. Everybody wants that. And it's because of Israel's actions. It's because of Israel's lobby. It's because we've all seen these politicians like Cory Booker, who speak out of both sides of their faces and who are spouting all these, all this flowery language about civil rights in the US. Meanwhile, they are receiving money from a country that is ethnically cleansing an entire people. So miss me with all your civil rights. It is a litmus test. So I think that's what's changed. This has always been an issue that Democrats have sort of left behind, and it has come to bite them in the ass. And so what we can do as as Americans is stop funding this shit. So this is where Gavin Newsom fails, right? And this is where someone like Senator Chris Van Hollen, who has spoken out and who has advocated for, most recently, the release of an American Palestinian boy who is being held in Israeli jail for, I think, 8 or 9 months, advocated for him to get out. That's where Chris Van Hollen is just going to wipe the floor with Gavin Newsom. Chris Van Hollen was the first guy to go down to El Salvador to meet with deported Kilmar Brego Garcia. That's the kind of leadership, the moral clarity that we so desperately need. Newsom can talk a big game on his fucking podcast, but Chris Van Hollen ain't starting a podcast. Chris Van Hollen's doing the work.
You like Chris Van Hollen, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, and this is someone who this is how much it doesn't matter. I mean, if anyone proves celebrity doesn't matter or looks don't matter, it was Bernie Sanders. But like, look
I
at Chris.
disagree, I disagree with that a little bit because I think they do matter. I think it's like the top thing. I think that
But Bernie didn't come into it with he came into it just being himself.
Bernie, and it only took him, I think it would have taken him or any other politician with his integrity and principles and ideology further if they were more charismatic, more likable, and more relatable. I think Zohran Mamdani is perfect. He's perfect. And the reason he's perfect was on display at every debate, with every adversarial conversation, and mostly in the Oval Office. He also happens to be, and yeah, he's really good looking. He smiles through while he's stabbing you, and I think that matters.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Same thing with AOC, and I think that liberals and Democrats are not less vulnerable to a person's charm. I think this guy Graham Plattner, not the same, but he has that that rugged. Like, people are going to look past any shit that he's done in the past or any tattoo he's had because he's actually, more of that whatever masculinity.
He's a skill. Well, I think he's a skillful communicator as well.
His voice, it's fucking the sexiest, most masculine, gravelly. He's down here talking like, and it's authentic, and I'm turned on by it, even though he might be a Nazi. That's what I mean. I don't like this guy. I don't think I like this guy. What is he doing to me? He's making me feel things. By the way, same thing with AOC, same thing with Zohran, same thing with so many other progressive, I think.
Yeah.
Same thing with Gavin. That's his thing. Like, they're charming, and I think that turns people, that especially apolitical people, much less those who we're not immune to their charms and their personality. I think it matters to progressives as much as it shouldn't, but it does.
No, I don't think you're wrong.
One of the smartest people in all of politics, policy-wise, Elizabeth Warren. But she's just not. She doesn't have that likability.
Well, yeah. I mean, then I don't think Elizabeth Warren. I don't feel like she goes hard enough in the paint, but I do think that she does have great ideas. I just don't think she is able to communicate. She feels much more like a senator, a wonk, a like, I don't want to like gender this and be like behind the scenes woman, but like, again, I feel like she doesn't really meet people necessarily where they're at.
Just quickly about her is because the financial crisis of 2008 is where she came on the stage and created the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is a great thing that government did. Not far enough, but still, she helped usher that in. She understands things like trade and all tax policy, and I think those things matter more than so many other issues and policies, and they affect every economic policy, including health policy, environmental policy. And I think she really understands those things. She's not the best salesman, is all I'm saying. Same thing with Bernie. Bernie's a great salesman because he always stayed on message. But Zohran stayed on message and was a far more likable, charismatic, convincing person who I could listen to.
Well, I just want to just to drill down on the differences between Bernie and Zohran, because I think it is interesting and important, because so much of what we love about Bernie is that he's uncompromising and he's not a bullshitter. However, politics is a lot about bullshitting.
Yeah.
And there was a moment, and it was funny because in the 2020 election, I knocked doors in Nevada for Bernie. He won there. It was amazing. But two things happened during that election cycle. Bernie didn't try, for example, to get someone like Congressman Jim Clyburn on his side to get his vote over Biden. Exactly. He didn't. I remember watching the interview where he was asked, did you try to get his endorsement? And he's like, no, I didn't. Now, maybe he assumed that Clyburn was going to be all in for Biden, but like at a certain point, and this is what I respect about Zohran going to meet with Trump, is like, you got to glad hand a little bit. You've got to do the thing that you fucking hate. And this is why I don't think I could be a good politician, because I fucking can't stand people I can't stand. And me going around and playing nice for a little bit when I actually want to rip your throat out, is like, it's difficult, but
Yeah.
Zoran knew how to do that. Bernie does not know how to do that. And yet what was so annoying about Bernie is he had all the knives out for Clinton, but when it came to Biden, who he served in the Senate with for years, he could not, the knives didn't come out in that debate when he could have fucking filleted him. Like, oh my God, Bernie filleted Clinton in those 2016, 2015 debates. But when it came to Biden, he
Yeah.
didn't. So it was annoying that Bernie's like, okay, so you're not going to go out of your way to ask for certain people's endorsements who you might not like, but you're going to like soft pedal your boy Biden. Like, it just, I feel like, again, the Senate is not a democratic institution. I don't think Bernie was immune to the gentleman's club, or that the Senate is, and I think that might have cost him the election.
Mm.
So I'm saying two things at once, but basically I don't feel like Bernie played or has played the coalitions that he needed to build when he needed to build them at the right times. Whereas I think you're totally right, that Zoran is building those coalitions, even though from the outside we're like, I hope he's not compromising. And I think AOC, I don't think we've seen again the fire and the like uncompromisingness, but we hope it's still there, it's still happening.
In the final few minutes I get with you, I do want to talk about the right. We haven't yet. And I wonder what you think. I guess my question is about the MAGA fracture. What do you what
No, it's just like these fucks. You're just like, they are, can we just openly call them white nationalists? Like, they're they're Nazis. They're
yeah,
white
I,
nationalists.
I think the best term, I believe, because it's the most accurate, is Christian white nationalists, because
Yes.
if they're not Christian, even if they're Jewish or not religious, they are absolutely supporting the future Gilead, like Margaret Atwood. I'm pretty wrapped up in that like version of conclusions.
I'm not.
Huh?
I'm not as much.
What do you mean?
Like, I haven't read it.
No, well, what I mean is, though, they're fair enough, but their view of what they want as America is a view not dissimilar to a certain pastor in Moscow, I think, Idaho, who is Pete Hegseth's guy. This Christian dominion where women don't even get to vote, so forget about reproductive rights or anything else. And so Christian white nationalists is the general
Yeah.
term that I think to describe them. But there is, do you think, I've been describing them and talking about the fracture. I sat and watched Nick Fuentes with Tucker Carlson, and I thought it was one of the most important conversations, because I think they're two of the most important and most insidious players, most influential on the right. And what I saw was Tucker Carlson desperately wanting Nick Fuentes' approval, desperately. And Fuentes today is touting Trump's comments about Somalians, which is, I think, the most racist thing he's said, not done. And
Well,
Fuentes,
I mean, Nazis were already sort of like, every time they have targeted, and white nationalists have targeted the Somali community historically. And now today, ICE is specifically going to Minnesota and targeting, harassing, and detaining Somali immigrants.
yeah,
So
and the Minnesota community who supports them is going to show up, I'm pretty sure. And I think the governor will too, and the mayor there
yeah.
as well in Minneapolis. Jacob Fry seems to know what he's doing. But what do you think of, or how do you describe, do you think it's a fracture? Where do you think this is right now? Where is it going? I've always thought, obviously, too, and that Republicans and the conservative movement is led by the most influential right-wing media personalities, whether it be Rush, Hannity, or Alex Jones and Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, I mean, they have the beauty of actually listening to some of the base and some of the grassroots. I mean, I don't think that any of those people are really representative of the majority of even Republican voters who, care about things like healthcare and whatnot. But it is amazing how the other side is like, oh, the most radical thing you can think of. All your politicians are going to scramble to try to cater to that thing. Meanwhile, we're out here, saying like, hey, what about a universal jobs guarantee? Or what about, universal health
By
care.
the way, you went too radical. How about universal pre-K?
Right. Exactly. Universal pre-K. And, and like politicians are like, well, maybe if you apply this voucher on the second, week of the month, like, so, that's what we've got in our corner. But I did a whole 40-minute, video about the fracture on the right, which is
Oh,
specifically falling around Israel, which I think is
right,
very, very
right.
important. And part of that video was watching the interview with Fuentes and Carlson.
Mhm.
And I was initially so struck because it seemed like a nothing burger. Like, who do people really think that Tucker Carlson is some sort of firewall against the worst wiles of the far right? Like, is he preventing everyone from being Nazis? Tucker Carlson has been out here talking about great replacement theory and like on the, fucking far right Nazi like 4chan chat boards, they're like, yes, this guy, yes, he's hat tipping to us. But I guess apparently Tucker Carlson was, and so him having Nick Fuentes on was a big thing, and they really are coming together around being against Israel. But for them, that means Jews. For the rest of us, it's like, no, that means the country, just means the country. But for them, it means Jews. And for Nick Fuentes, it absolutely means the Jews. And so that conversation was really critical. And also the reaction to it was critical because you can tell that the Ben Shapiros have lost. I agree. Waj has said this a lot, but I think that some of these people who only dog whistled around their racism, Ben Shapiro constantly says, oh, I don't want to kick out immigrants because they're brown. I just want to kick out people who don't share our values. Well, motherfucker, what do you think people hear when you say share our values?
Yeah.
They absolutely think it's about religion and race. They absolutely think that, and language, right? So, whatever youth and
Sorry.
what?
And gender, apparently you didn't consider that.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, yes, absolutely. Oh God, it's just so grim out there. I'm like
They
thinking of the
hate women most, I think.
Oh my God, have you heard of Andrew Tate said, if you have a girlfriend in the year 2025, you're gay. If you're a straight man and you have a girlfriend in the year 2025, you're gay.
But I think I can back that up though, that they even more than trans people, they hate women. Like,
oh yeah,
Pete Hegseth hates women more than anyone, and they know it. All the women who know Pete Hegseth know it, his mom included.
Yes, she does. Yeah, man. I mean, these are scary times. I really think that this is what I mean by Gavin Newsom, or a centrist Democrat or centrist democratic thinking or status quo thinking will deliver us into the arms of an actual white supremacist and a Nazi who's like, let's just say it. Let's no more, coded language. And they're already kind of doing this, and they're doing it to appeal to the Groyper, base that a lot of the Republicans know they have. So
I don't love calling them Nazis because I feel like it just elicits. It's like democratic socialists. Like I'm so interested in language and branding and linguistics and how we talk. I feel like does matter, and I just feel like Nazi doesn't describe them accurately enough because of what we think Nazis of the past were, and because I think it loses too many people. Whereas white Christian nationalist does it all. It does race, it does gender, and it does kind of the America First nonsense.
No, and I think even more than that, Nazis sort of deflects blame from this country's own genocidal history. Like, we have had our own white nationalism. I mean, we could call them slavers, we can call them Confederates. Like, there are so many other words for them. Hitler drew inspiration from the colonization of the United States and the enslavement of Black Americans. So like, like we have plenty of that shit here. So you're, to some degree, I think you're absolutely right that we can just call them Christian nationalists, white nationalists,
neo-Confederates maybe too, because it's a really
neo-Confederates.
It's a very good point you make about America's history. Is we're still absolutely in 1860. I mean, they would dial it back in a heartbeat if they could. And they're trying.
Yep.
They're trying to erase it. So That's where we're at. All right. Well, listen, Francesca Fiorentini, grazie mille. It's so good to talk to you. Everybody loved this. I'm a big fan. It's like to have been on your show and to have you here.
Yes.
Hope we can do it more often about anything we want. And I love your idea. I just think it's important that we collaborate as much as possible until we can find a place, to land. And also, it's like so many people. I'm in this weird text chain of like progressive content creators that you may or may not have known about, and I'm turned off by a lot of the ambitions. I get a little uncomfortable with the ambitions.
What do you mean the ambitions?
Well, to succeed and make money doing what we're doing, you have to have followers and subscribers.
Yeah.
And to do that, you have to do a certain thing. And I see a lot of people who are smart and funny and entertaining and good, but they're not really deep thinkers when it comes to policy, when it comes to actual progress and how things get done, history. They've got a lot of blind spots, and they're really thinking a lot more about their social media accounts, which is, we all should be. We got to be. It's important. I'm not against marketing and promoting, but I think there's a little too much self-interest and popularity. And I don't know. I think you strike a really good note with what you're doing and having the ability, the integrity, and the history and credibility of what you've seen and your lived experience, and, as well as being good at being on camera, being
Thank you.
a commentator. So.
I mean, I fucking hate the idea of being a content creator. I really do. And I'm an Instagram hoe like everybody else. I'm all up on it. I'm constantly on Instagram. But yes, I think that again, our media is failing us. We should not have to rely on the kindness of our Substack subscribers or our patrons or whomever. But we are. And so that's always been my goal, is to try to like keep on working at, real work, like to be able to get the message out to bigger audiences. But my mom knows about Substack. So like there's people people are saying goodbye to this old, media, which they killed themselves. It's like print media. What happened? Oh, they killed themselves, man. And AI is of course killing us all. So it's but I agree with you. Like, again, back to circling all the way to the beginning. Everyone is kind of their own little brand. A lot of people like myself rely on this to make a living. And it's like it's I wouldn't even call them golden handcuffs. It's more like kind of like bronze or like copper wiring handcuffs. They're not the most expensive handcuffs.
Everybody go subscribe to the Bitchuation Room on YouTube, the podcast. Francesca's on. I said Franny because your Instagram is Franny.
Call me Franny Fio.
And become a Patreon subscriber and support her with your money. I give her the full endorsement for whatever it's worth. I appreciate you joining me. I appreciate everybody watching live, and I'm going to hit the end stream. Please don't go anywhere, Francesca. But thank you everybody for joining us. It was awesome.
Thank you, Pete.